Hey, one more thing before you go. This is Over the Teacup Sunday, and in this episode, we're going to wrap up what we could accomplish with our limited series about the 2023 Oscar nominated films and talent. Today, we're going to explore The Fablemans, the 2023 Oscar nominated film produced and directed by Steven Spielberg. This film is loosely based on Spielberg's childhood and is the story of Sammy Fabelman as a young man from 7 to 18 as a young adult. Through Sammy's journey, we discover a shattering family secret, a true purpose in life to create movies, and the power of these movies to help us see the truth about each other and ourselves. I'm your host, Michael Hirsch. I'm here with my lovely co host and wife, Diane.
Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday.
Welcome to One More Thing Before You Go. Hey, Diane.
Hey, Michael.
We didn't get through all of the Oscar nominated films like we wanted to before the Oscars, but I think we've done better than we have in quite a while, actually.
Yes, I agree. We've seen more than we normally get to. So the ones we
Well,
didn't see were in the theaters and just, we're homebodies. So,
that homebodies and the unfortunately COVID is taking a wild turn, and the flu's out there, and anything and everything is crawling around, and we
yeah,
would we as much as we would love to, we missed a couple of the shows that we really wanted to talk about. The Whale
the whale.
for Brendan
Mhm.
Fraser and The Way of Water, Avatar: The Way of Water,
Yeah,
and we didn't get a chance to see Tar,
no.
TAR, those three. But it's been really fun reviewing and watching and reviewing these movies. I think that they've had an immense amount of creativity that is flowing through the Oscars this time.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's going to be pretty tight. I mean, there's a lot of them that seem to be front runners, but I don't know. It could always surprise us, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be a hard choice because we have favorites that we really really like, and
Mhm.
it's really hard to choose. At least in my opinion, it's really hard to choose which ones we need to win, because I think that the ones that we have reviewed, each and every one of them deserve to win.
Yeah,
You
yep, I
know,
think so.
the
Hmm.
actors within them, actors and actresses, they deserve to win. The cinematography deserves to win. The directors deserve to
Hmm.
win. The
Yep.
ensemble cast in totality deserve to win. But, as we all know, you have to have somebody that wins and somebody that loses.
Yep. It's got to happen.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no. Well, I guess your consolation trophy is the nomination.
Yeah. I mean, not everybody can say they've been nominated, so that's
True.
not a bad thing.
I
Yeah.
think I've been nominated for stuff, but I won't say what they are. It is out loud. Like dirty
Okay.
words. I've been called dirty words a lot.
Nominated for the bleep of the year. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's it. Sometimes
Okay.
in my old life, as in my old
Okay. I
life,
was gonna say I
mostly.
don't know of any of those, so
Yeah, mostly in my old life.
okay.
Well, let's talk about the Fablemans.
Yeah.
Fablemans is a 2023 Oscar-nominated film. It was produced and directed by the legendary Steven Spielberg. It
Hmm.
stars Michelle Williams, Gabriel LaBelle, Paul Dano, and Judd Hirsch. This film is a loose adaptation of Spielberg's childhood growing up in post-World War II era in Arizona. There's always an Arizona connection.
Connection.
And
And but usually it's unfortunately usually it's not a good thing. This is okay. Steven Spielberg lived here. That's
exactly,
cool.
exactly.
Yeah.
Uh, and within this movie, there is a beginning to Steven Spielberg's inspiration.
Hmm.
And then when he moved to California, of course, everything changed. And we have Steven Spielberg as we know him today.
Oh, yeah. It was I knowing that it was sort of based on his life anyway. I love biographical things. Anything that's like a true story or based on
Yeah.
a true story, I love those. So
And
going in, I already knew I was going to love it, and I did. It was a great movie.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And obviously, we know Steven Spielberg for the. I mean, he really has made an outstanding contribution to the film arena and to being part of our lives from so many different perspectives.
Yeah.
The Indiana Jones movies alone
Mm-hmm.
have created such um, a history, such a relationship with adventure, with uh, Jurassic Park. I mean, look at everything that he's created. It's just been a yeah.
Classic movies and E.T.
And ET, exactly. I mean, there's just so many. Well, what we see in this movie is, and, going a little more in depth here, but what we see in these movies, I think, in Steven Spielberg's movie, in this particular Steven Spielberg movie, we have a better understanding of where his love of film got started.
Yeah.
And, in some perspectives, you and I have talked about this in when I was a child. He and I mirrored in numerous ways.
Mm.
Obviously, we both took separate routes in life, but I can see the similarities because we see him pick up an 8 millimeter camera when he was a kid. I picked up an 8 millimeter camera when I was a kid.
Mm.
He went to his first movie theater and fell in love with the aspect and you see this in the film. It
Mm-hmm.
started his whole love of film.
Mm-hmm.
They took him to a movie theater and he was infatuated with what was up on the big screen.
Well, and it we'll see it in the film, but it was based out of a fear from going to the theater.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that to conquer his fear, his mother brought this idea up, and it just never let go. After that, he was like hooked.
Well, and it is we as children, I think, all are enamored by the big screen. I mean, you go into these movie theaters, and what you have is an immense immersion into whatever's happening on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
You become part of it. You get more involved in it because it's just so. Especially as a child, everything up there is on a huge screen, 70-foot screen. Not just something on TV, but
Right.
immersed. You have a surround sound that's completely around you. You can
Mm-hmm.
feel everything. You can see everything. You get drawn into the scene, so to
Yeah.
speak. So watching him, learn this and seeing the joy in his face.
Mm-hmm.
And I say his as in the actors that portrayed him. You kind of get the idea like, yeah, wow, I've been there. I've experienced that. I understand that. And we can, well, look at us. We continue to be enamored by it.
Yeah. I and so we can all relate to it the way he the reason that he picked it up and stayed with it and
Yeah.
loved it. We can all kind of relate.
Well, you want to hear my little review?
Sure.
Just a little review. I should
Sure.
put my film review glasses and pipe in.
You don't have a pipe.
uh,
Whatever.
you know,
Mm.
the film is steeped in nostalgia and emotion. It's set in post World War II Arizona, as we said before. We follow a young man named Sammy Fabelman, who's Gabriel LaBelle. He does a brilliant job, by the way, as he discovers a shocking family secret. We follow him through his childhood, adolescence, and young adulthood as he explores the power of films and how they can help us to understand the truth about ourselves and each other. It is not an easy task as he faces daily bullying from his classmates and a strained relationship with his parents. He is a Jewish family. He's part of a Jewish family, so he experiences the racism as well. Through it all, he finds solace in the movies. He watches, finding an escape in the stories, as we just said. I think we all do that. We seek that, and he helps to develop characters that and falls in love with the ones that he's watching on the big screen. The performances from the cast are simply outstanding. Michelle Williams and Paul Dano both give a nuanced and heartfelt performance as Sammy's parents, while Gabriel LaBelle captures the wide eyed innocence of Sammy as he navigates through his own personal journey. Judd Hirsch does a brilliant job as Sammy's grandfather, but the entire cast is excellent, and it's LaBelle who truly stands out among the rest. The younger Sammy is played by Mateo Zorian. He does a great job. His sisters through the years are played by Keely Karsten, Alina Brace, Julia Butters, and Bertie Burita, and they all do such a fantastic job as well. Um, I really, really, really enjoyed this movie.
I did too. I think I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, and I went in thinking it was going to be great. So, I loved it. I would not, I wouldn't hate if they won. I don't think they will. I think it's just too, uh, the competition's too steep, I think. But they could. I mean, who knows? They could, and I wouldn't hate it. I think everybody should see it, especially because Steven Spielberg's been such a huge, like we talked about it, a huge influence on all of our movie going and movie seeing for what, 30, 40 years. Oh no, longer than that. Jaws. That was the first movie. It was definitely my first drive-in movie. It may have been my first movies. My first memory of actually being at a movie theater of some kind. It was a drive-in, and it was Jaws, and I was traumatized for years, years. So thanks for that, Stephen. Um, so yeah, he's been a part of it for so long, and creating it for us for so long that, um, he would absolutely deserve to win. You know, I just don't. I don't know. I don't think he will, but
Well, it is. I think that he creates an environment for us that we can experience things from. Again, I think he brings us, draws us into the film itself. He draws us into the story, into
yeah.
the characters. I mean, look at Harrison Ford. Harrison, they're getting ready to do Indiana Jones 5
Is
and
it five?
5.
Wow.
And
Wow.
how do we know Harrison Ford? I mean, other than Star Wars,
Yeah. But he is Indiana Jones. I mean,
but he
that's
is
what we're,
Indiana Jones. Period.
yeah.
I mean, he emanates Indiana Jones, plain and simple, and we know him as that. In most sequels, a lot of times when we watch a sequel to something, it's kind of like, well, yeah, this kind of worked. Well, wasn't the same.
Yeah.
But with the Indiana Jones line, in the Jurassic Park line, it seems to just be a continuation of the story, not just
Right.
another film. It's a
Hmm.
continuation, another chapter, and it seems to go seamlessly, I think.
Yeah. No, I love Indiana Jones movies. And Indiana Jones the ride at Disneyland is really great too.
That's good too. I think they closed it for something, for cleaning or for,
Yeah.
so it's down for a little bit, and they may, unfortunately, may replace that. But anyway,
Oh,
that's a whole nother talk.
yeah.
Um, about the Fablemans, to give you a further exploration, they explore the importance of family secrets and how the power of movies can help us to come to terms with them. Overall, this movie is a powerful and a moving film that will leave you thinking and feeling. I think that I definitely felt everything that was going on in that movie. I don't know if you did as
I
much as,
definitely did. Yeah, definitely. It really pulls at your heartstrings.
yeah,
There's comedy, there's drama, there's sadness, there's um disgust with the when he's being bullied for being Jewish. That's it's you want to just come through the screen at the people. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's all every emotion that he was trying to evoke. I think he definitely did.
Well, I, I, I enjoyed it. Obviously, we were debating whether or not we were going to enjoy it. I will be honest, because understanding and knowing what kind of films that Steven Spielberg has brought to us, it was it was kind of from a different perspective this time. It
Yeah,
was from a personal perspective.
yeah,
And that's the one thing that you can get out of this film. When you go there, you get to understand a little bit of how Steven Spielberg emerged in this industry, how he
mhm,
was able to build an empire in this industry, his
yeah,
love for it, his passion for it, where that came from, and how he integrated his passion, into everything he did with a camera.
hmm. And he brought other people along with him too. I think people that well, like in the movie that everybody will see, that he enlists a lot of his friends and his,
Yeah.
the classmates, to make these little movies that he started out making. And you see how it actually changes some of them as well, and they're like, oh wait, this is, I get it, like this is cool, I can, I can actually put this emotion elsewhere and people will understand it. And I think that that was kind of cool that he was able to really affect others. And I think the thing to know about this movie is it's not like Indiana Jones, it's not like Jaws, it's not like Jurassic Park. It is much more along the lines of E.T. So if E.T. happens to be your favorite Spielberg movie, you are definitely going to love this movie. If you weren't so much of an E.T. fan, I still think you should see this movie just to understand where Steven Spielberg has come from. And I don't think you'd be disappointed. I think it's a great movie, and I just there's not one thing I hate about it.
Well, and I know I said this already, but I'll say it again. The performances of the actors, the beautiful cinematography. I mean, he takes you back to the '60s. I
Yeah.
grew up in the '60s, so going back to the '60s, yeah, I could relate to that. I was watching the movies because I went, oh wow, he did a really good job in taking us back to the '60s.
Hmm.
I remember those cars. I remember the way the movie theaters were. You and I
Yeah.
have had conversations where my dad used to, when we didn't go to school or whatever, he would drop us off at the Peak Theater downtown Colorado Springs,
Hmm.
and we would watch a double feature, and he'd
Yeah.
go to work,
Hmm.
or on a weekend if he had to go do a job on the weekend, he'd drop us off at the Peak Theater or the Chief Theater, and those were the two in Colorado Springs at the time. And
Hmm.
it was just, it was like walking into magic, man. And
Hmm.
and he did that in this film. He took you back to that time period. Took you back to the clothing, the costuming was great. The set design was great, and it's an examination of the power of movies.
Hmm.
And he makes this incredible film that captures, I think, like you said earlier, pain, anguish, the
Hmm.
joy of growing up, as well as the power of friendship, love, family. And I think that everybody out there, you shouldn't miss this. I know that
Right.
it's getting close to the Oscars, and you may or may not have your choices picked out already. If you haven't seen this movie, you really need to take a look at it.
Yeah, because like I said, I think it definitely has a chance of winning. I don't know if it will because there's oh gosh, the competition is just so fierce this year. Um, and anything everywhere all at once is just taking everything. It
Taking
seems
everything.
like.
In fact, they just won a bunch of
So,
Spirit Awards and SAG Awards and
mhm.
DGA Awards, and yeah, they're really taking the gambit.
Yeah. So he's got some really stiff competition, but it's still Spielberg. I mean,
It is.
you know, we wouldn't be shocked if he wins because it's Spielberg.
Well, as I said earlier, the center of this story is Sammy Fabelman, and Sammy Fabelman is theoretically Steven Spielberg. It starts out of him being a young man, like 7 years old. The film opens up in New Jersey in 1952. It's his first visit to a movie theater. As you said, Diane, earlier, his mother thought she could take him to the movie theater to help him
Well,
overcome a
no,
fear.
no, no, no. He got the fear from the movie.
Oh, fear from that's right. He got the fear from the movie. So
So
that
after
is
seeing
it.
the movie, he had some
Yeah,
some fear and he couldn't sleep, and so she decided, here, let's do this.
that was it. And the movie, I mean, he was haunted by the powerful imagery of
Right.
Cecil B.
He did.
DeMille's. I'm
Yes.
ready for my close up, Mr. DeMille. Oscar winning The Greatest Show on Earth, 1952. And young Sammy Fableman returns home seeking to recreate it. And encouraged by Mitzi, his doting mother, Sammy discovers an irresistible passion for making home movies. And that's what I said earlier about him picking up an 8 millimeter camera.
Hmm.
So there was no sound, but he was able to take that and recreate some environments. In fact, he recreated the train scene that
Hmm.
was in The Greatest Show on Earth. And he was obsessed with it.
Yeah. He
You
never
know,
put it down for that.
yeah.
That was it.
Um, as a result, his creative projects become increasingly ambitious. He was inspired by John Ford in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. That was about basically John Wayne as a gunfighter dying, and Jimmy Stewart, one of my favorite actors, along with John Wayne. But
Hmm.
basically, Jimmy Stewart is reflecting upon the life and times of Liberty Valance. And it's a great movie. And John Ford is a great filmmaker, and I understand where he got his nuance with that, his addiction to that
Hmm.
style of filmmaking, but it works.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I said earlier in the broadcast, he had a life altering family secret was hidden in plain sight. It puts a strain on the family ties, and that influenced his work as well. So you'll find that throughout this, he almost left becoming a creative individual because of all that was transpiring in our personal lives. And I think we may have all come to some point in our lives where we experienced the same thing. So,
Yeah.
you know, you can relate to this movie, I think, from a personal level as well, because whether it be filmmaking or photography or being a painter or an actor or a sanitation worker, whatever
Yeah.
you are doing or have a passion for,
Yeah.
sometimes family gets in the way from being able to pursue our dreams or to fulfill them the way we need to fulfill them.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention in this, there is another character, and I should have given him credence to this, the uncle. But he's not really an uncle, though.
No, not really Knuckle, but played by Seth uh,
Rogan.
Rogen. I was thinking that was wrong for some reason. That
No,
sounded wrong.
Seth Rogan.
Yeah, Seth Rogen. He's great in this too. I mean, yeah, I have to say, I actually think my favorite character in the whole movie was his mom. And I don't ever want to know if the way he had Michelle Williams portray Mitzi. I'm hoping that that was very, very close to what the truth was about her because, gosh, she was so cool. She was just cool, especially for the times. She was not your typical mom, I don't think. I mean, she took really great care of her kids. I'm not saying that, but she just had this effervescence about her that just nothing could bring her down. And she was strong and knew what she wanted. And I mean, to a point, not in a great way. And she got what she wanted, um, not without some pain. But she's just so strong, and yet even in the face of bad stuff, she still tried to really keep it optimistic and never really letting things get so bad that I don't know how to explain this, but she just was a different um things could have really, really destroyed her as a person, and she just didn't let it happen.
Well, and we're not going to give the whole story away because we want you guys to see it. But in essence, you know, you will find this in some of the trailers and the clips. We're not going to tell you what the family secret is. That is something that will be divulged when you watch it. I think the only way to really understand it is to watch how it unfolds.
Hmm.
That's the only way to really feel the full impact of it. But you're correct. I think that Michelle Williams did a fantastic job, and
Good.
we watched Steven Spielberg with was it Jimmy Kimmel or Stephen Colbert, where he had made comment that he had was on set, and when Michelle Williams and Paul Dano showed up, that's who he plays his parents in the movie. Both of those people play his parents in the movie. That somebody tapped him on the shoulder and said that Michelle and Paul are here, and
Mm-hmm.
he turned around and I think he just turned around and lost it. He tears to his eyes
Yeah,
because he
because
saw his
they
parents. He
they look
literally
so.
saw his parents.
Yeah. Yeah, they did a great job with the costuming, and he was even shocked by it.
So yeah, it. I think that even with that respect, I think it gave him some time with his parents again, and to be able to tell the story in such a way because you will find throughout this movie that again it was written by Steven Spielberg and he had a partner writing it as well to keep it on a perspective, I guess, to make sure that it wasn't all one-sided.
Right.
But basically, they present to us what he grew up with, the
Mm-hmm.
racism against Jews that he grew up with,
Mm-hmm.
the inner workings of a family that is struggling without being honest with each other, the power of communication within a family,
Yeah.
and in the being locked into, at the time, what were norms. His mother gave up a creative career.
Hmm.
And you will understand this, when you watch the movie. I think that this film gives the opportunity for each one of us to understand and relate to the fact that families have trouble. Sometimes we don't always communicate it properly. Sometimes it doesn't always come out like it's supposed to. We lose that communication, and everybody in the family has something to lose. And they didn't communicate that properly in many instances. So we can relate to the family because everybody within the family gave up something. They didn't want to move from Arizona to California. But when they moved to California, certain doors opened, but certain doors closed.
Yeah.
And, each member of the family had their own, I gave up on a dream of my own, and I wasn't able to fulfill that. But that pushed Sammy into really saying, I want to make my dream come true.
Right.
I think that's what we see within this. We see the tenacity. We see him saying, I want to tell stories through the lens of a camera that everybody can relate to and everybody can touch upon, and they
Yeah.
feel something within those movies. They can live it, they understand it, they're family oriented. If you really look deep inside all of Steven Spielberg's films, you will see that there is a family connection.
Hmm.
In some perspective, there's a family connection where they kind of have to stop and go, oh, yeah, now this brought us together
Hmm.
because of this, this, and this,
Whether it's a blood related family or not. I mean,
or
like in
not.
Indiana Jones, is everybody that's, from Short Round in the first one to I can't remember. I can't remember characters' names, so I'm not even gonna try. But yeah, all the way through, everybody is connected as a family, whether they are actual family or not.
Yeah, he basically points out that you don't have to be blood to be family, but also the importance of family and communication,
Yeah.
and to not let anybody stifle your creativity or your ambitions or your career, for
Hmm.
any reason. In that, although family can step in and create some obstacles, that
Hmm.
we have the opportunity within ourselves to overcome those obstacles. Overall, I think, this everybody played their part really, really, really well.
Yeah, it was really great. And I like that, coming away with it showing that we all have to find that tenacity to get what we want. And we can't give up. No matter what obstacles are put in front of us, we cannot give up. And I
I agree
think
with you.
that that's how we can all connect to this movie, that, we've all felt like we've lost out on something, or, we get to a
Yeah.
certain age um, and feel like, oh God, it's too late. I can't do that now. Well, it's probably not, you know.
It's never too late, as they say. That's
Sometimes
your
it feels like it, but
that's finding your purpose. I mean, sometimes you got
yeah.
to find your purpose in, and sometimes it comes in different arenas and different perspectives. But I think that Steven Spielberg did a fantastic job with the writing and with the direction, the cinematography, the set design, the casting,
Hmm.
integrating the cast within each other. I think when you look back on all of Steven Spielberg's films, you find that the people that he has put in those positions in the cast, in the roles, that they embody those roles, in that he
Yeah.
allows them the freedom to embody those roles at
Hmm.
such a point that we can connect with them as if we know them.
Yeah. I
That's what I
agree.
like about Steven Spielberg's movies, no matter which ones they have been. Now, obviously, you've overcome your fear of sharks because we've watched Shark Week.
Yeah, I actually get into Shark Week now.
In Shark Week now.
My 7-year-old self would never have believed it, because I thought sharks were everywhere. I thought they were in my bed. I mean, it is crazy. It is crazy how scared I was. Um, and stopped going to the beach, and I
Yeah.
mean, just all kinds of things. So, um, yeah, this movie is everything you would expect of a Spielberg movie,
And
but
more.
and
And more.
more, because it is his story. And what's kind of sad, didn't his dad passed away like before the movie came out, but they were already like in production or something, and his dad passed away, right?
Yeah, they were in production with it. They knew they were going to write about it, and I think his mother did as well. She passed away before it was released as well. But his sisters were able to come see it.
Yeah.
So they were with him during the premiere, and from what I've heard, they loved it just as much. And I mean, it must be ironic to be able to look up on the screen and see your life being displayed to everybody.
Oh, weird.
But at the same time, I think that he played. Let me see if I get the right words for this. He allowed the presentation of his life story to be put out there in such a manner that we empathized with him. We
Hmm.
have a better understanding of him, where his inspiration, his motivation, his technical ability, and his power of embracing the slow process of growing up and pursuing a dream to
Hmm.
be a filmmaker and to tell stories and to share those stories with the world. And
Yeah.
you kind of get a really up close and personal, in my opinion, you get an up close and personal perspective of Steven Spielberg and
Hmm.
who he is as a person and how he didn't let certain things like bullying stop him.
Hmm. And racism, and yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that I always loved Steven Spielberg anyway, but I just feel like everybody can now be more connected to him just knowing his story.
from that perspective, I agree.
It was really, really well done. I loved it.
Well, and I again, I, it's. Uh, I'm afraid to give things away from the movie that are
I
just,
know it's so hard to talk about these
yeah.
movies and not give too much away.
But there are some things about the movie that really, I mean, the brilliance in anybody that knows anything behind the scenes. I will say this: I have worked, and you have worked on movie sets. I've trained to be a director and a line producer.
Mhm.
I've been an actor. I understand all aspects of filmmaking, from the budget to the casting to the above the line, the below the line, how to set a production schedule. I understand tracks and dollies and booms and everything needed to give you the shot that you're going to get, from close-ups to long shots to dolly tracks to everything.
Mhm.
The brilliance that he used to emulate all of those aspects of filmmaking as a child, but not having that equipment,
Yeah.
was amazing.
Yeah, the stuff that I guess you could say he Jimmy rigged some stuff, and it worked. It worked.
It did.
It He was able to create exactly what he wanted to create, and
From a young
young
age.
age, young age. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So what you see in Steven Spielberg is a master at work.
Mhm. Well, and I think that it shows too that he really got the best from both of his parents. His dad had an
Yeah,
engineering mind. His mom had a creativity, mind, a creative mind, and boy, they really melded those two things with Steven Spielberg. Like he got the best of both.
100%. And the tenacity to go through with what he needed to go through with to get where he's at today. And
Yeah.
his first walk into the building at where he now has offices,
Hmm.
was like he was enamored by what was there. And
Yeah.
he got to go
He
in there
almost
and,
couldn't believe he was there.
and
Yeah.
he goes in there to meet.
Well, let's not give it
I
away.
don't want to give it away. He goes in there to meet an icon in the industry,
Hmm.
and you can see the wide-eyed child within him.
And the
I mean,
nervousness.
and the nervousness with
Yeah.
it. Yeah, the first
Yeah.
time I walked onto Paramount Studios, when I walked on the set of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and
Hmm.
was standing behind the director, standing on the deck of the starship, it
Yeah.
was like, wow. It
Yeah.
just gets you. It was amazing, an amazing experience. And so when he did that, and I'm watching him, I'm going, yeah, I felt that. I understand that. I felt that when I walked into that studio. So yeah, he brings that to us. Anyway,
Yeah.
overall, your recommendation, Diane.
Oh, see it, see it, see it, see it. It's awesome, and you will not be sorry for seeing it. And it is, like I said, it's more of an ET movie than some of his other movies. But I mean, who doesn't love ET?
Well,
So
exactly.
you know,
I,
it's definitely a movie that needs to be seen.
I agree with you 100%. I think that if you haven't had the opportunity to see it yet, please see it. You can rent it for $6 on Prime. I mean, if you don't want to buy it, that's cool too. But you can rent it pretty cheap. Watch it from home. I highly recommend it, especially if you're anyone that loves Steven Spielberg's films. If you
Mhm.
love acting, directing, producing, understanding where that creativity comes from, how to put it together, how to create a film from your mind and your heart, and understand family and the
Yeah.
perplexities of the family, and how a secret can destroy a family, in that, depending upon
If
how you handle
if
it.
if they let it.
I say, yeah, depending on how you handle it,
Right.
whether or not you can come through it in a positive way.
Hmm.
So absolutely, go see the Fablemans, watch the Fablemans, rent the Fablemans. You can't vote for them because unless you're a SAG member, but I guess root for them if you're a fan, if you're a fan. Anyway, any
Yeah.
last words before we go?
Um, no, I was thinking if there was anything I would ever say to him if I got to meet him. There was a question I was going to ask him, and I can't remember what it is at this moment.
So if I asked you one more thing before you go, Diane, if Steven Spielberg walked into the room right now, what would you ask him?
Yeah, it didn't help. I don't know. It was. I was thinking about it earlier that oh gosh, I would want to ask him this, and I just yeah, it's gone. Dang it. I hate
uh,
getting old.
I would ask Steven Spielberg. I think, from my perspective, I would ask Steven Spielberg. I mean, it's very difficult because in this movie, it kind of shows the heart of where he originates from.
Hmm.
So, you know, I would just ask him.
So you can't think of anything either. I
I
don't feel
would
so
ask
bad.
him if he wanted to stay for dinner.
Right. There you go. Yes,
That way, we could just talk about
please.
all of his movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
That way
works for me.
the questions would just come to us. Then
Exactly.
yeah.
So back to everybody's Sunday. Listen, thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate you joining this Sunday with us. Thank you for being a part of One More Thing Before You Go family. Some things are changing in the next few weeks. Please take note of it. We are still us. We're still One More Thing Before You Go. We're still Over the Teacup on Sundays. But we are bringing you some new and exciting episodes that are going to be coming about here in the next few months. Kind of a slightly new direction, and you'll see some new artwork showing up here pretty soon, and so forth. But it's still us. Please support us. That helps us to bring you valuable content. You can buy us coffee. You can go to the website at beforeyougopodcast.com and support us there. There are several links, and or subscribe to us, follow us, write us a review, send me an email if you have an idea for a show or want to be on.
Watch
Michael,
us on YouTube.
Michael at one more thing before you go.com. That's Michael at one more thing before you go.com. And yes, please watch this on YouTube. There'll be a link on the website. You'll see a link within the episode webpage that you can follow. Go and watch it on the website as well. So, one more thing before you go. Have a great day. Have a great week. And thanks for listening.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of One More Thing Before You Go. Check out our website at beforeyougopodcast.com. You can find us as well as subscribe to the program and rate us on your favorite podcast listening platform.